Imagine waking up to a nightmare you never saw coming. A letter claiming you owe $750,000, on a mortgage for a mansion you've never set foot in, a $12,000 tax bill you didn't sign up for, and a credit score in ruins. Now, imagine the gut moment when you learn the thief isn't a stranger, it's your own sister, backed by your parents, who now expect you to pay the taxes to save the family. I'm Lauren Carter, and this is my story of betrayal, a relentless fight for justice, and a courtroom verdict that turned my world upside down. Buckle up for a tale of lies, family secrets, and a battle that tested everything I thought I knew about loyalty and love. I'm Lauren Carter, 30, living in Cary, North Carolina, a postcard-perfect suburb outside Raleigh, where kids ride scooters down tree-lined streets and neighbors swap gardening tips over picket fences. My life was the kind of quiet success you don't flaunt but hold close. I worked as a project manager for a healthcare tech company, orchestrating software roles with a precision that earned me a reputation as the office fixer. My 3-bedroom ranch house, with its white picket fence and a dogwood tree that bloomed pink every spring, was my pride and joy. Paid off 2 years ago after 6 years of penny pinching, skipping beach trips, and saying no to overpriced lot. My Toyota RAV4 was reliable, my 401k was growing, and my credit score was a gleaming 790, a testament to years of discipline. I even ran a side hustle selling handmade candles on Etsy, pouring scents like lavender and cedarwood in my garage, the profits covering my coffee addiction and the occasional splurge on a new pair of boots. My family was my anchor, or so I thought. My parents, Jim and Diane Carter, lived 20 minutes away in Raleigh, in the brick colonial where I grew up, with its creaky staircase and a kitchen that always smelled of Mom's baking. Dad, a retired accountant, spent his days tending his rose garden, muttering about aphids and pruning shears. Mom ran a small catering business, her pecan pies and deviled eggs, the stuff of church potluck legend. They were the kind of parents who'd drive through a hurricane to bring you soup, who'd framed every report card I brought home, even the CS in algebra. Then there was my older sister, Megan, 34. The family's wild card. Megan was a force, bold, with a laugh that could fill a room and a knack for turning heads. She'd always been the dreamer, chasing big ideas while I played it safe. Her ventures included a boutique that folded after a year, an event planning business that never got off the ground, and a stint as a lifestyle influencer that fizzled when her Instagram followers stalled at 3,000. Each failure came with a new excuse: bad market, bad timing, bad luck. But Mom and Dad adored her. Megan's got spirit, Mom would say, her voice warm with pride. Dad called her our firecracker, his eyes twinkling as if her next scheme would make us all millionaires. I was the dependable one, the one who showed up on time, paid her bills, and never caused a scene. I didn't mind much. I loved my family, quirks and all. We'd gather for barbecues at my parents' house, crowding around their patio table for burgers, Mom's sweet tea, and Megan's tales of her latest game changer. I'd tease her about her big plans, she'd fire back with a playful jab, and we'd all end up laughing. Growing up, we'd been close, despite our differences. Megan taught me how to braid my hair, snuck me into R-rated movies, and cheered at my high school track meets. But there were cracks. Even then she'd borrow money for emergencies and forget to pay it back, promise to cover my share of dinner, and then lose her wallet. I let it slide. Family right. I thought we had each other's backs. I was wrong. It was a sunny April morning in 2024. The kind where the air smells of fresh-cut grass and you leave the windows open. I was sorting through mail at my kitchen counter. Electric bill, a postcard from a co-worker's trip to Charleston, a flyer for a local car wash. When I spotted an envelope from Pinnacle Trust Bank. I didn't bank with them, so I figured it was junk, maybe a credit card offer. But the word urgent stamped in red made my stomach lurch. I tore it open, and my world tilted. The letter was a default notice for a $750,000 mortgage on a property in Wake Forest, a wealthy suburb north of Raleigh. I'd missed 4 payments of $8,500 each, and the bank was threatening foreclosure. Attached was a property tax bill for $12,000, due in 30 days, addressed to me. The property was a 5,000-square-foot mansion, 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a pool, and a 3-car garage. I'd never seen it, never signed for it, never even dreamed of owning something so extravagant. The letter listed my full name, Lauren Elizabeth Carter, my social security number, my driver's license number, and a signature that mimicked mine but felt off to loopy. To force dot, my heart pounded as I grabbed my laptop and pulled up my credit report through my score, once 790, was now 480. My screen was littered with red flags, inquiries from banks I'd never contacted, a new credit card with a $15,000 balance I hadn't opened, and that massive mortgage glaring at me like a neon sign. I called Pinnacle Trust, my hand shaking, navigating their automated menu until I reached a human. "This is Derek. How can I assist you?" The rep's voice was calm. Infuriatingly so. "There's a mortgage in my name for $750,000, I said, my voice trembling. "I didn't take it out. I've never even been to Wake Forest. This is a mistake." Derek put me on hold for 45 minutes, the music looping like a taunt. When he returned, his tone was unchanged. "Miss Carter, the mortgage was approved in August 2023. The documentation is in order, or signature, driver's license, social security number, everything." "I didn't sign anything," I shouted, my voice echoing in my quiet kitchen. "Someone stole my identity." "You'll need to file a dispute and provide evidence of fraud," Derek said, as if reading from a script. "The paperwork appears legitimate." I hung up, my head spinning. Evidence of fraud. How do you prove you didn't do something? I imagined foreclosure notices piling up, movers hauling my furniture to the curb, my neighbors whispering as my life unraveled. The tax bill was the final straw, $12,000 I didn't have, for a mansion I didn't own. I called my best friend, Tara Pham, a CPA who'd been my rock since we met at a Cary book club 3 years ago. Tara was sharp, practical, with an attitude and a love for true crime podcasts that matched mine. "Lauren, this is identity theft, big time," Tara said, her voice urgent. "Freeze your credit with all 3 bureaus, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion right now. Then file a police report and get a lawyer. This isn't a DIY fix." I spent the next 2 hours on the phone, locking down my credit and changing every password, bank accounts, email, even my Etsy shop. My mind raced through possibilities: a data breach, a hacker, some scammer in a basement halfway across the world. But deep down, a sick feeling gnawed at me. The paperwork was too perfect, too personal. This wasn't random. Someone who knew me, really knew me, had done this. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house in Raleigh. The 20-minute drive felt like an eternity, my hands gripping the steering wheel as I rehearsed what I'd say. I needed their support, their outrage, their promise to help me fix this. I brought the default notice, the tax bill, my credit report, and a folder of bank statements, clutching them like a lifeline. When I pulled into their driveway, the sight of their house brick facade, azaleas blooming, the old swing on the porch made my chest ache. This was home, where we'd carved pumpkins, played hide-and-seek, celebrated birthdays with Mom's lopsided cakes. Surely, they'd be as horrified as I was. Mom opened the door, her apron dusted with flour. "Lauren, honey, I wasn't expecting you." Her smile faded when she saw my face. I sat them down in their living room, the one with Mom's quilted throw blankets and Dad's golf trophies. I showed them the letter, expecting shock, maybe tears. Instead, Mom's eyes widened, and Dad stared at the floor, his hands clasped tight. They exchanged a glance, and my stomach twisted. They weren't surprised. They knew. "Lauren, sit down," Mom said, her voice barely audible. She gestured to the couch, her hands trembling. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice sharp. Dad cleared his throat, avoiding my eyes. "It's about Megan." The room seemed to shrink, the air growing thick. Mom started crying, soft sobs that echoed in the silence. Dad explained in a low, reluctant voice. 8 months ago, Megan had come to them, desperate. Her latest venture, flipping a mansion in Wake Forest, was her big break. She'd said she'd found a buyer, a developer who'd pay $2.50 million once the house was renovated. But with her credit ruined from past failures, no bank would touch her. So she'd used my identity, my social security number, my driver's license, even a forged signature to secure the $750,000 mortgage. Mom and Dad knew about it, but swore Megan had promised to pay it back before I found out. "She showed us comps," Dad said, his voice heavy. "Mansions in Wake Forest selling for millions. She said it was a sure thing, that she'd handle it. I stood, my chair scraping the hardwood, my voice rising to a shout. "She stole my identity. She bought a mansion in my name, ruined my credit, And now I'm stuck with a $12,000 tax bill. How could you keep this from me? Mom reached for my hand, but I yanked it away, my heart pounding. She's your sister, Lauren, she said, tears streaming down her face. She's been struggling. We thought she'd pull through this time. You thought? I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. You knew for 8 months and didn't tell me. You let her gamble with my life. Dad's face hardened. She's family, Lauren. She's been under so much pressure. You've always been fine, you'll figure this out. I felt like I'd been slapped. My parents, who'd taught me to save, to be honest, were defending Megan. Worse. They'd known since August 2023 and said nothing. You're choosing her over me, I said, my voice breaking. My house is at risk, my credit's destroyed, and you're worried about her. Mom's sobs grew louder. Please, Lauren, don't go to the police. It'll ruin Megan's life. She's already got so much on her plate. What about my life? I shouted, grabbing my folder. You let her do this, and now you're begging me to protect her. I stormed out, ignoring Mom's pleas, the door slamming behind me. The drive home was a blur, my vision clouded with tears. My family, my safe haven, had turned against me. That night, I sat in my living room, the default notice and tax bill crumpled on the coffee table, my phone burning a hole in my hand. I needed to hear it from Megan. I needed her to explain why she'd done this, why she'd thought she could get away with it. My hands shook as I dialed, but I forced my voice to stay steady. She answered on the second ring, her voice bubbly, like she was mid-laugh at a cocktail party. Laure, hey, what's up? Been ages. Did you take out a $750,000 mortgage in my name to buy a mansion in Wake Forest? I asked, my voice cold, cutting through her charm. Silence. Then a nervous giggle, the kind she used when she was caught. Okay, wow, straight to the point. Look, I was gonna tell you, I swear, I just needed a little time. Time, I snapped, pacing my living room, my bare feet cold against the hardwood. You stole my identity, Megan. You forged my signature, used my social security number, and put my house at risk. My credit's ruined, and there's a $12,000 tax bill in my name. What the hell were you thinking? I'm sorry, Laure, she said, her voice dropping, the bubbliness gone. I was desperate. The Wake Forest deal's huge, $2.5 million once it's flipped. I've got a buyer lined up, a developer from Charlotte. I'll pay it back, every penny, plus interest. You won't lose a thing. You're broke, Megan, I shouted, my voice echoing. Your boutique failed, your influencer gig tanked, your events business never even started. How are you going to pay back $750,000? The buyer's solid, she insisted, her tone frantic. I've got contracts, Laure. Just give me a month. Don't do anything crazy, okay? And, can you cover the tax bill? Just for now? I'll pay you back. I froze, my jaw dropping. You want me to pay the $12,000 taxes on a mansion you bought with my stolen identity? It's temporary, she pleaded. If the taxes aren't paid, the deal falls through, and we're both screwed. Please, Laure, for the family. I'll make it right. I hung up, tears streaming down my face. Megan's audacity was staggering. Not only had she betrayed me, but she expected me to clean up her mess, to sacrifice more to protect her fantasy. I looked around my house, my sanctuary, with its cozy couch, my candle-making supplies in the corner, the dogwood tree visible through the window, and felt a surge of anger. This was my life, and I wasn't going to let her take it. Tara connected me with Rachel Kim, a lawyer in Raleigh who specialized in identity theft and fraud. Rachel was a powerhouse late 30s, with a crisp blazer, a sleek ponytail, and a stare that could cut glass. We met at her office, a modern space with a view of the Raleigh skyline, the city's oak trees framing the glass towers. I brought everything: the default notice, the tax bill, my credit report, a timeline of my parents' confession, and Megan's infuriating call. I even included a photo from a family barbecue last summer, showing my purse on the picnic table, the purse Megan had rifled through to steal my driver's license. Rachel flipped through the documents, her pen tapping rhythmically. This is textbook fraud, she said, her voice calm but authoritative. Your sister committed a federal crime: identity theft, forgery, possibly wire fraud. We'll sue her civilly for damages and cooperate with law enforcement for criminal charges. The bank's also liable for approving a loan with no verification. We'll hit them both. I hesitated, my stomach churning. Suing Megan feels Wrong. She's my sister. And my parents there begging me to drop it, to keep it in the family. They say it'll destroy us. Rachel leaned forward, her eyes locking onto mine. Lauren, Megan didn't borrow a few bucks. She stole your identity, put your home at risk, and expects you to pay her taxes. Your parents are enabling her. You don't owe them silence, you owe yourself justice. Her words cut through my doubts. I signed the retainer agreement, my hand steadying as I committed to the fight. Rachel moved fast. She filed a police report, and within 48 hours, detectives were at Megan's apartment in downtown Raleigh. A trendy loft she could barely afford. Megan admitted to forging my signature but claimed I'd agreed to help her business, a lie so blatant it made my blood boil. The police opened a criminal case, and Rachel warned me Megan could face up to 5 years in prison if convicted. Civil lawsuit was next. Rachel filed against Megan for fraud, identity theft, and intentional infliction of emotional distress, seeking $1.5 million in damages, enough to cover the mortgage, taxes, legal fees, and the emotional toll of her betrayal. We also sued Pinnacle Trust Bank for negligence, arguing they'd failed to verify the loan properly. To build the case, I spent weeks gathering evidence, tax returns, pay stubs, utility bills, anything to prove I hadn't authorized the mortgage. Rachel's team hired a private investigator, Carlos Ruiz, a former cop with a knack for uncovering dirt. Carlos's report was a bombshell. The Wake Forest mansion was a money pit, structurally unsound, with a leaking roof, faulty wiring, and a pool that hadn't been maintained in years. Megan had no buyer, no developer, just a string of unpaid contractors and a $50,000 lien from a local supplier. She'd been living in the mansion, hosting lavish parties, and posting photos on Instagram, all while dodging the mortgage payments. Carlos uncovered another twist. Megan had tried to take out a second loan in my name for $100,000, but the bank flagged it due to my frozen credit. She'd also opened the $15,000 credit card, racking up charges at Nordstrom, high-end restaurants, and a spa in Asheville. The audacity left me speechless. Megan wasn't just reckless, she was ruthless, living a fantasy life on my dime. I couldn't shake the image of Megan in that mansion, sipping wine by a pool while my life crumbled. I needed to see it for myself. One Saturday, I drove to Wake Forest, Tara in the passenger seat for moral support. The mansion was a hulking eyesore on a quiet street, its paint peeling, its lawn overgrown with weeds. A for sale sign leaned crookedly in the yard, faded and ignored. The windows were boarded up, and a rusty gate creaked in the wind. I stood there, imagining Megan hosting parties in a house she'd stolen from me, and felt a surge of anger. This wasn't just a house, it was a monument to her greed. Tara snapped photos, muttering, "She's out of her mind." We knocked, but no one answered. A neighbor, an older woman watering her roses, told us Megan had been there for months, throwing loud parties until the city cited her for noise violations. She said she was a big-shot realtor. The woman scoffed. Didn't look like it. Back home, I scrolled through Megan's Instagram, my jaw tightening. Photos showed her lounging by the pool, clinking champagne glasses with friends, captioned, "Living the dream." The timestamps matched the months my credit was tanking. I sent the posts to Rachel, who added them to the evidence pile. "This shows intent," she said. She knew what she was doing. The family pressure intensified. Mom's calls turned from tearful to angry, accusing me of turning on Megan. "You're breaking our hearts," she said in one voicemail, her voice sharp. Dad sent texts, preaching forgiveness, quoting his favorite pastor and stories of his own youthful mistakes. My Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, called to lecture me about family unity, saying I was embarrassing us. My cousin Derek, always Megan's cheerleader, texted, "You're being selfish, Lauren. Megan's trying to build something. Why can't you help her?" Even my grandmother, who'd once called me her steady star, sent a letter urging me to think of the family. I felt like I was drowning in their judgment. Every night, I lay awake, replaying childhood memories. Megan braiding my hair, sneaking me into movies, cheering at my track meets. She wasn't a monster, not always. But then I'd see the tax bill, $12,000, now overdue, and my resolve hardened. This wasn't about sisterly love, it was about survival. The months before the trial were a grind. Rachel's team worked tirelessly, deposing bank employees, analyzing loan documents, and preparing me for testimony. I took a leave of absence from work. My boss, Karen, was supportive but warned I'd need to return soon or risk my job. My savings dwindled as I paid for legal fees, credit monitoring, and Carlos's investigation. I stopped answering my parents' calls, letting their voicemails pile up, each one a fresh stab of guilt. I skipped the family's annual 4th of July barbecue, unable to face their pleading eyes or Megan's fake apologies. Instead, I spent the day with Tara, grilling burgers in her backyard and watching fireworks from her deck, pretending my world wasn't falling apart. "You're doing the right thing," Tara said, handing me a beer. "They don't get to guilt you into this." But the guilt gnawed at me. I remembered Megan teaching me to ride a bike, her hands steadying me as I wobbled down our street. I thought of Mom's pecan pies, Dad's proud smile when I bought my house. They weren't bad people, just blind to Megan's flaws. Yet every time I softened, I'd open my mailbox to another debt collector's letter, or see the mansion's address on the tax bill, and my anger flared anew. My neighbors started noticing the strain. Mrs. Thompson, the retired nurse next door, asked why I looked so tired. My coworker, Jason, a nosy sales rep, kept probing about my leave, his smirk suggesting he'd heard rumors through the Raleigh gossip mill. I installed a security camera at my front door, not for burglars, but for peace of mind. I didn't trust Megan not to show up, begging or scheming. The trial began on February 3, 2025. In a Wake County courtroom, a stately building with oak paneling and a hum of tension. The gallery was packed, reporters sniffing out a juicy family drama, curious locals, and my parents, sitting stiffly in the back row, their faces unreadable. Megan hired a flashy lawyer, Victor Lang, who oozed confidence and wore cufflinks that screamed money. Rachel warned me Victor would play dirty, painting me as complicit. "He'll try to make you look like you agreed to the mortgage," she said. "Stay calm, stick to the facts." Victor's opening statement was a masterclass in spin. He argued I'd implicitly agreed to the mortgage by encouraging Megan's real estate dreams. He cited a $3,000 loan I'd given her for her boutique 4 years ago, ever repaid as proof of my trust in her ventures. He even claimed I'd visited the mansion, a lie that made my jaw drop. A few jurors, including an older woman with a skeptical frown, seemed to buy his charm, and my stomach churned. Rachel's opening was a gut punch. She laid out the facts: Megan's failed businesses, her forged documents, my ruined credit, and the bank's negligence. "Lauren Carter trusted her sister," Rachel said, her voice clear and commanding. "Megan repaid that trust with a $750,000 lie, a mansion she couldn't afford, and a tax bill she expects Lauren to pay." Megan took the stand, dressed in a demure blouse, her eyes brimming with tears. She spun a sob story about her passion for real estate, claiming she'd told me about the mortgage at a family barbecue and I'd offered to help. She swore the Charlotte developer was real, delayed by paperwork issues. Her performance was convincing, and I saw Mom dab her eyes in the gallery, Dad's hand on her shoulder. I testified next, my voice steady despite my nerves. I told the jury about the letter, the tax bill, the fear of losing my home. I described the betrayal, my sister's lies, my parents' silence, the weight of their judgment. "This wasn't just about money," I said, my eyes scanning the jury. "Megan was my sister. I trusted her. She took that trust and used it to steal my life." Rachel presented a mountain of evidence, forged documents, with my signature traced from a Christmas card, bank records showing Megan's $15,000 credit card spree, Carlos's report on the mansion's disrepair, and texts from Megan begging me to pay the taxes. She called Carlos, who testified about Megan's financial mess. No buyer, no developer, just a $50,000 lien and unpaid contractors. He revealed Megan's attempt to take out a second loan in my name, stopped only by my frozen credit. The jury gasped, and Victor's face tightened. The bank's testimony was damning. Their loan officer, Susan Hayes, a nervous woman in her 50s, admitted they'd approved the mortgage based on Megan's paperwork without contacting me. "It looked legitimate," Susan said, her voice shaky. Rachel tore into her, exposing the bank's lax processes. "You didn't think to verify a $750,000 loan secured by a suburban house?" she asked, her voice sharp. Susan stammered, and the jury's faces hardened. My parents' testimony was the hardest. Mom sobbed, clutching a tissue, saying she'd prayed Megan would fix it. Dad admitted they'd known since July 2024, but didn't tell me because Megan deserved a chance. Victor tried to spin it as a family misunderstanding, but Rachel's cross-examination was brutal, highlighting their complicity. Mr. and Mrs. Carter chose to protect their daughter's lies over their other daughter's life. She said, her voice ringing. A surprise witness sealed the deal. Carlos tracked down Mike Ellison, a contractor who'd worked on the mansion. Mike, a gruff man with calloused hands, testified that Megan had promised payment from a family trust, funded by me, a lie that left the jury stunned. He produced emails where Megan bragged about her $1 million deal, undermining her victim act. Rachel Coltera, who testified about my financial discipline and the toll of the betrayal, painting me as a victim, not a conspirator. The trial stretched over 4 weeks, each day a grueling emotional marathon. I leaned on Tara, who brought me coffee and listened to my rants. Every night, I'd stare at the tax bill, now overdue, and wonder if I'd ever feel safe again. The jury's faces were unreadable, and I braced for the worst. On February 27, 2025, we gathered for the verdict. The courtroom was silent, the air thick with tension. Rachel squeezed my shoulder, whispering, "You fought hard, Lauren. That's enough." My parents sat in the back, Mom clutching Dad's hand, her face pale. Megan stared at her lap, her bravado gone, her hands fidgeting. The foreman, a middle-aged man with a deep voice, stood. "We find the defendant, Megan Carter, liable for fraud, identity theft, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We award the plaintiff, Lauren Carter, $1.1 million in compensatory and punitive damages." The courtroom buzzed with gasps and murmurs. Megan's face crumpled, her shoulders shaking as she buried her face in her hands. Mom let out a wail, and Dad wrapped his arm around her, his face ashen. The judge added that Megan would face criminal charges for identity theft, with a potential 5-year sentence. Rachel had negotiated a side deal with the bank. They rescinded the mortgage, removed it from my credit report, and paid $75,000 toward my legal fees to avoid further liability. The tax bill was transferred to Megan, who'd have to sell the mansion or lose it to foreclosure. But there was a twist. The jury, outraged by the bank's negligence and Megan's audacity, recommended a state investigation into Pinnacle Trust's lending practices. The judge agreed, forwarding the recommendation to North Carolina's Banking Commission. Reporters swarmed, sensing a scandal that could ripple beyond my case. It wasn't just my win, it was a warning to banks everywhere to tighten their processes. Relief washed over me, but it was bittersweet. The $1.1 million was a mirage. Megan was broke, her mansion a liability with no buyers. I'd never see the money. My parents left without a word, their silence louder than any argument. I'd won, but I'd lost my family. The aftermath was a slow, painful rebuild. My credit score crept up to 620 within months, a small victory after months of chaos. I refinanced my house to cover legal fees, a bitter but necessary step. My job stabilized after I landed a major project, a software rollout for a hospital chain that earned me a bonus and a promotion to senior project manager. The raise felt like a lifeline, a chance to rebuild my savings. Tara became my surrogate family. We started weekly dinners at her place, cooking recipes from her mom's Vietnamese cookbook for by an HCO, anything to keep my hands busy and my mind off the betrayal. She introduced me to her friend, Ethan Brooks, a quiet graphic designer with a wry sense of humor. We started hanging out, grabbing coffee at local shops or hiking the trails around Cary. Ethan was steady, grounded, the opposite of Megan's chaos. I wasn't ready for romance, but his friendship was a balm to my fractured trust. Therapy helped me process the betrayal. My therapist, Dr. Emily Voss, guided me through the layers of hurt Megan's actions, my parents' complicity, my own guilt for fighting back. "You didn't break your family," she said in one session, her voice calm but firm. "They made choices. You made yours." I started journaling, filling notebooks with memories of better times and questions I'd never answer. Why did Megan think she could get away with it? Why did my parents choose her? I joined a financial literacy nonprofit, volunteering to teach budgeting workshops, turning my pain into purpose. Megan's criminal trial is pending, and she's living in a rented condo in Durham. Her Instagram dark, the mansion was foreclosed, sold at auction, for a fraction of its value to cover the lien. My parents reached out once, a stiff email about healing and moving forward, but I'm not ready. They chose Megan's lies over my truth, and that wound runs deep. My neighbors, once distant, rallied around me. Mrs. Thompson brought casseroles and the hiking group welcomed me like family. But the Raleigh gossip mill still buzzed, painting me as the cold sister who turned on her family. I ignored it, focusing on my life. This ordeal rewrote my understanding of family. I used to think blood meant unconditional loyalty, that love meant forgiving anything, no matter the cost. Now, I know better. Family is about respect, trust, and accountability. Megan's betrayal wasn't just about money, it was about power, about taking what wasn't hers because she thought she could. My parents' silence was its own crime, choosing their firecracker over me, even when she was wrong. I spent months wrestling with guilt, wondering if I'd been too harsh, if I could have handled it differently. But every time I doubted myself, I'd look at my house, my home, safe again, and know I'd made the right choice. I found strength I didn't know I had. I faced my family's judgment, stood up in a courtroom, and reclaimed my life. I learned to set boundaries, to value my own worth, to surround myself with people who lift me up. Tara, Ethan, Dr. Voss, even my hiking group, there, my family now, not because of blood, but because of trust. I'm not the same Lauren I was a year ago. Tougher, wiser, a little scarred, but free. I'm sharing this story because I know I'm not alone. Maybe you've been betrayed by someone you loved, fought a battle no one understood, or rebuilt after a loss. I want to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments below, whether it's about family drama, financial fights, or finding your strength. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more real-life tales that hit hard and inspire. Let's start a conversation about standing up, fighting back, and reclaiming your life, no matter who tries to tear you down.